First of all, what are your thoughts on the governor's first legislative session?
Well, I think the governor talked a really big game and then did the exact opposite. He said on his first day in office, he was here to reform government, and it turns out he's just here to grow government. He talked a good game all session long about, being fiscally conservative and wanting to, well, maybe he didn't use those exact words, but not wanting to increase taxes and not wanting to increase spending. But at the end of the day, he officially holds the title as the governor who signed the largest tax increase in Washington state history. And so going from reform government to growing government at the expense of you and I think is something that is pretty embarrassing for him. And I think most Washingtonians should be disappointed in their governor.
Do you feel that Washington is better or worse than when the governor was sworn in?
Well, it was trending in the wrong direction, and I think largely that's continued. So I think we're on the wrong track. I mean, they came in promising to tax the rich, which obviously I have issues with that sort of language and who's paying for what. But they ended up passing large tax increases that will impact you and I. But whether it is in gas tax, sales and use tax, B&O tax, those costs will get passed on to working Washingtonians. It's going to hit especially hard here in the Yakima Valley. I think that the notion that these aren't going to impact people, in addition to these tax increases, they also cut random programs to save a few bucks here and there while growing other programs. So, all in all, I think we're just moving in the wrong direction again. But it was clear from the start. We thought, I mean, if I'm being bluntly honest, we thought that Governor Ferguson was going to check the more progressive insanity of the majority party in Olympia, and it turns out they must have something on him because they turned and made him do exactly what they wanted to do.
I know you just got done mentioning that he did everything on their end. However, do you think that he gave any wins or much thought to the minority party?
I think a lot of the wins from the minority party were things that the governor wouldn't necessarily sign into law. I mean, there were good laws he signed into place. I appreciate those, of course. But a lot of the wins that we had, especially here in the Yakima Valley, came from not just Republicans, right? I worked across the aisle with a lot of members of the Democrats to stop some pretty dramatic things from happening. I think the biggest example is the Yakima Valley School. That was an all-out effort on behalf of House and Senate Republicans from around various districts in the Yakima Valley, working to stop those. There were some other bad policy changes that we were able to stop that you don't necessarily see. It's not in the media because it's not something the governor's signing. I think the biggest example would be a bill that was moving forward that would basically prohibit cities from enforcing any sort of use restrictions on their city streets, essentially allowing for continued growth and homelessness with no ability for local control to be able to get people the help they need or provide any sort of restrictions. And that is having a huge impact in Yakima. We are not the only city struggling with it. I think I just recently learned that Spokane now is second in the nation for overdose deaths from homeless people in on the streets behind Baltimore. That seems to me not something we should be proud of. And with actions that they were going to take, would have made it much, much harder. So I'm thankful we were able to stop stuff like that.
Uh, Looking forward, do you think that there's any way the governor can turn around your opinion on how he's doing as a governor, or do you think he's past the point of no return?
No, I mean, listen, we've got 3 more years left in his first term, so we're going to try to work with him where we can. But here's the problem: is who do I trust, right? I mean, he came in and promised X, Y, and Z, and then didn't deliver on any of it. As soon as he, in my opinion, got headwind from the progressives in Seattle, he just went with what they wanted. Now he'll claim that, he reduced some of the outrageous taxes, and that is as part of it. But still, signing in the largest tax increase in history when we didn't need to raise taxes in order to balance our budget just shows how out of touch Olympia is right now. So yeah, well, I'm hopeful. I think a lot of members, myself included, are are going to be a little more skeptical of what he says going forward.
Uh, Admittedly, I haven't done all my research on the budget and the appropriations. I know that's sort of your wheelhouse. Is there and I know that earlier the governor suggested billions of dollars that the appropriations committee could look at. Do you know if he actually took any of those recommendations that he gave to the committee?
So I'm not sure on the specific ones. I know that there was about 200 million in various line or section vetoes that he did, but he didn't, let's say that 200 million. I don't think there was a corresponding tax or a veto on the revenue taxes that were associated with those. So there were small cuts, right? And if you can't, you got to make tough decisions when you're the executive. And one of those decisions would have been to not honor a pretty high outstanding raise that the Governor Inslee signed off on before he left. That's where about 4 billion of our new taxes are going to go. And I love our state workers. I think they do a great job. They also happen to be the highest paid employees in 38 out of 39 counties, with the exception of King County, and they're barely behind there. And so while Washingtonians like you and I and others are not seeing huge raises, we're actually having to tighten our belts. I think the same should have been done with our state monies instead of just looking at new taxes. And I worry about the long-term ramifications for what those mean. I think it's really concerning when you're seeing businesses already say we're going to stop investing in Washington, we're going to move investments elsewhere. That means less jobs. That means less family wage jobs for Washingtonians. It means less growth and development here in Central Washington. Companies that may be looking to move here are going to think twice, and those jobs are probably going to go to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. I mean, even Virginia right now is paying companies like Amazon to move employees there, and that speaks volumes. We are not a state that can just assume people will live here because they want to live here, or businesses, I should say. We are a state that is competing with 49 other states on attracting and retaining good businesses and those jobs and tax revenue that comes with it, and we are setting ourselves up for failure.
With this uh, increase in the budget and taxes, that means that money is going to be going to a lot of places. Do you think that there's anything anywhere new that you support the money going to?
Well, I think that's difficult to say because there was a number of quote unquote tough budget decisions that they made. They cut a lot of programs that I think a lot of Washington families, especially in the Yakima Valley, rely on. It's now going to be more expensive for some of the healthcare programs we provide, and it's going to be less rate taking for some of our local providers, which may mean less spots for people to access the care that they have. So. A lot of the money is not necessarily going to improving the lives of Washingtonians. You're going to be paying more and getting less, whether it's, from your public services or, in other areas.
Just really quick before this budget, is it for the entire biennium, or is there going to be more budget work that's going to be decided in the 60-day session?
So yeah, so the 60-day session is a supplemental budget year. So we will make theoretically just adjustments in the budget. We'll see. A lot of times the 60-day session, we're doing new policy work too, so that'll be concerning. I think that there's another concern around what the federal monies are going to look like. It's always been my concern that we do a lot of budgeting based on the assumption that the feds are going to give us a bunch of money, and I don't think that's a good way to run your budget. So who knows? We may be back for a special session just to address underfunding if we are making assumptions in revenue from the feds that doesn't materialize.
Was that a conversation that's been had, or is that just something that we're hoping doesn't happen?
I think it has been, I wouldn't say whistling past the graveyard, but I definitely think that there's not been the true like sit down and realization. There's been a lot of yelling about Trump and the federal administration, what's going on there. But that's, whether if the iceberg is coming, yelling at the iceberg is not going to help if you're not riding the ship. And I don't think we're in that position yet.
All right. And then that's about all the questions that I have. Is there anything that I missed that you'd like to speak about?
Yeah, the one thing I want to add, it's important to know that we actually offered and worked with the governor and provided him, House Republicans, a budget that could fund core services for state government without raising taxes and achieve all the goals that he had mentioned at the start of the session. Um, and I'm really disappointed that he wasn't willing to stick up for something that would have worked for all of Washington without raising taxes and putting more stress on people across our state.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Mr. Corey.
Always good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too. Have fun in Spokane, and I'll see you next time.
All right, sounds good.